The security housing unit at Pelican Bay State Prison is built to reduce human contact to the bare minimum. It is designed to sever communication, isolate leadership, and dismantle criminal networks through prolonged confinement. Cells are sealed. Movement is limited. Interaction is controlled. On paper, the system is airtight. In practice, it is not. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing, because what happens next reveals how this system truly works. Pelican Bay opens in 1989 near the Oregon border. Its SHU quickly becomes the most restrictive environment in California's prison system. Inmates spend 22 to 24 hours a day alone in concrete cells. There are no phone calls. There are no contact visits. Exercise takes place in small concrete yards under open sky. Meals slide through slots. Voices echo down corridors, but faces rarely meet. The goal is total control through total separation. Yet contraband enters the SHU from its earliest years. Not occasionally. Not accidentally. Repeatedly. Drugs appear inside cells. Written messages circulate. Weapons are discovered during searches. Later, cell phones surface. Each item contradicts the idea that isolation equals security. Each item forces the same question. How does anything move inside a place designed to stop movement itself? Investigations show that contraband does not rely on chaos. It relies on routine. Every secure prison depends on people to function. Officers. Medical staff. Clerical workers. Maintenance crews. Vendors. Attorneys. Mailroom employees. Each role is regulated. Each role is screened. None are immune to pressure, error, or corruption. The SHU is not breached by force. It is penetrated through systems that must exist for the prison to operate at all. Staff corruption is one confirmed pathway. It does not require large numbers. A single compromised employee is enough. Internal affairs investigations document cases where correctional officers smuggle drugs, tobacco, or messages in exchange for money or favors. Items are hidden in boots, belts, lunch containers, or paperwork. Because SHU inmates rarely leave their cells, staff become the primary physical link between the inside and the outside. Most officers follow policy. Some do not. In a closed environment, the actions of one carry disproportionate weight. A small object can become a currency. A folded note can carry authority. A packet of drugs can generate debt, loyalty, or violence. Contraband inside the SHU does not need volume. It needs access. Mail is another vector. Legal mail receives special handling under constitutional protections. Attorneys correspond with clients without routine content inspection. This protection is essential to due process. It is also vulnerable to abuse. Investigations reveal instances where legal mail is altered, encoded, or used as a delivery mechanism for contraband substances soaked into paper or concealed in envelopes. Prison officials respond with tighter screening. Mail is inspected visually. Pages are photocopied. Originals are sometimes destroyed. Even then, communication continues. Codes replace language. Simple phrases acquire specific meanings. Seemingly harmless correspondence becomes instruction. Isolation changes how messages look, not whether they exist. Supply chains provide another entry point. The SHU requires food, cleaning supplies, clothing, and medical equipment. These items pass through multiple hands before reaching inmates. Each transfer introduces risk. Audits and searches reduce but do not eliminate it. Small items can be hidden in packaging. Substances can be introduced during preparation. Written materials can be embedded where they are not expected. Medical visits create brief movement. Inmates are escorted to clinics for necessary care. These trips are tightly controlled, but they involve proximity to other people and spaces outside the cell. Investigations document instances where contraband is passed during these moments. It does not require conversation. It requires timing. Even recreation yards are not immune. The concrete exercise pens are designed for solitude, but they share airspace. Voices carry. Objects can be dropped or tossed. A message written small enough can travel farther than intended. Every inch of the SHU is monitored, but monitoring does not equal omniscience. What enters the SHU becomes more valuable than it would be in a general population unit. Scarcity increases power. A single phone can connect an inmate to the outside world for weeks. A few grams of drugs can control behavior across multiple cells. A list of names can reinforce hierarchy. Contraband does not simply exist. It reorganizes social order. Gang influence persists under these conditions. California prison gangs adapt to isolation by decentralizing operations. Leadership does not disappear. It relocates. Orders are transmitted through intermediaries in other units or facilities. Family members, associates, and lawyers become unwitting or deliberate links. Investigations show that SHU inmates continue to exert influence over street-level and prison-based activity despite years of isolation. The SHU was intended to neutralize this influence. Instead, it alters the method of control. Communication becomes slower but not weaker. Decision-making becomes more deliberate. Contraband becomes the medium through which authority is enforced. Isolation amplifies the consequences of access. Weapons inside the SHU are rare but documented. They are improvised. Metal fragments. Sharpened plastic. Pieces of fixtures. These items are not smuggled whole. They are created from what exists. The presence of weapons underscores another limitation of absolute control. Even the most restrictive environment contains materials. Human ingenuity does the rest. Cell phones represent a later development. As devices shrink and networks expand, their value inside the SHU increases exponentially. A phone bypasses physical barriers entirely. It allows direct contact with associates, families, and criminal networks. Discoveries of phones trigger immediate lockdowns and investigations. Each discovery confirms that technological change outpaces institutional design. Prison administrators respond with countermeasures. Signal detection. Increased searches. Staff rotation. Mail restrictions. Training programs. These efforts reduce incidents but do not eliminate them. Every solution introduces new challenges. Every restriction creates pressure points elsewhere. Oversight reports and court filings describe a cycle. Contraband enters. Controls tighten. Methods adapt. The SHU becomes a laboratory for understanding the limits of isolation as a security strategy. The findings are consistent. Human systems are not sealed systems. The presence of contraband also exposes ethical and legal tensions. Measures to stop it often conflict with constitutional rights. Restrictions on mail raise First Amendment concerns. Monitoring legal correspondence risks violating attorney-client privilege. Staff surveillance affects morale and recruitment. The balance between security and rights becomes increasingly narrow. Long-term isolation itself becomes the subject of litigation. Courts examine whether the conditions of the SHU constitute cruel and unusual punishment. Settlements and policy changes follow. Some inmates are released from the SHU after decades. Programs are revised. Yet the history of contraband remains relevant. It demonstrates that extreme confinement does not guarantee compliance. Former officials acknowledge this reality in testimony and interviews. Control is not absolute. It is negotiated through policy, resources, and human behavior. The SHU reduces violence in some respects. It increases it in others. Contraband is both a symptom and a driver of this dynamic. The underground economy inside the SHU operates quietly. There are no open markets. Transactions occur through debt and obligation. A favor today creates leverage tomorrow. Records are mental. Enforcement is indirect. The absence of visibility does not mean the absence of structure. Information is the most valuable commodity. Names, dates, instructions. Contraband paper carries more weight than contraband drugs. Written messages allow coordination without presence. They sustain identity and purpose in an environment designed to erase both. Isolation also intensifies psychological pressure. This pressure can be exploited. Staff are offered money. Families are manipulated. Associates are threatened. Contraband becomes a tool not just of survival but of coercion. Investigations document cases where outside actors are directed from inside the SHU using these methods. The design of Pelican Bay's SHU reflects a belief common in late 20th century corrections policy. Remove contact and crime will stop. The reality proves more complex. Crime adapts. Power shifts. The environment shapes behavior but does not eliminate intent. Audits conducted by state agencies repeatedly note gaps. Staffing shortages increase risk. High turnover reduces experience. Remote location complicates oversight. Each factor contributes to vulnerability. None operate alone. The SHU's location itself is a factor. Its isolation mirrors the isolation imposed on inmates. Distance limits media access. It complicates family visits. It also concentrates authority. Decisions made inside face fewer external checks. Contraband thrives in opacity. Over time, Pelican Bay becomes emblematic of a broader debate. Does extreme isolation enhance safety, or does it create new forms of instability? The evidence from contraband cases suggests the latter. Control without transparency invites exploitation. Reforms in California's prison system attempt to address these issues. Step-down programs reduce time in the SHU. Intelligence units focus on behavior rather than status. Communication is monitored more systematically. These changes acknowledge that isolation alone is insufficient. Still, the historical record remains. Contraband enters the SHU not because rules fail to exist, but because systems depend on people. People make choices. Some of those choices undermine the structure they serve. The story of contraband at Pelican Bay is not about a single breach. It is about a pattern. It shows how absolute isolation does not equal absolute control. It reveals the limits of architecture and policy when confronted with adaptability and incentive. In the end, the SHU functions as intended in one respect. It confines bodies. It does not fully confine influence. That influence moves through paper, through people, through systems designed for trust. Each pathway leaves traces. Each trace tells the same story. The presence of contraband inside one of America's most secure prison units forces a reconsideration of assumptions. Security is not a static condition. It is a continuous process. Isolation is not a solution. It is a variable. Pelican Bay's SHU stands as a case study. Not of total control, but of its limits. The concrete walls remain. The routines continue. And beneath them, the quiet economy persists, shaped by scarcity, sustained by access, and constrained but not erased by isolation. If you think this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe for more true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.